Hello, welcome back to Tactical Tuesday with Johnny Tiger. The date is October 20, 2020. Another one of those of my favorite numbers, 2020. And as you can see, or maybe you can't, for those of you who might be watching this who are visually impaired or blind, or maybe the video quality is bad enough that you can't see what's going on. We're going to be talking about guns today. There are a lot of self-defense techniques, disciplines, classes out there. And some of them teach you how to disarm people armed with knives, people armed with guns. Heck, I myself teach people how to disarm people armed with guns, people armed with knives. But here is the bare bone truth of it. Unless there is no alternative whatsoever, and let me say this again, losing your car key, losing your house, losing your money does not constitute as no alternative. Anything other than your life, anything other than your children's life, anything other than the life of your loved one, your friends, can be discarded or replaced easily. So when I say that other than when you have no choice, I don't mean like when a person is going to steal your house key, or the person broke into your house and they're going to steal your 70-inch TV. Those things can be replaced. A lot of people, that's why you have insurance. That's why insurance takes care of things like that. Okay? I don't mean that if the person is going to rough you up a little bit. Again, as long as they're not going to kill you or do something totally traumatic and damaging and stuff like that, getting kicked around a little bit, getting slapped around a little bit is actually better than trying to disarm someone. Why? Simple. When the robber points a gun at you and demands for your money, at this point, your chance of survival, I would say, is about 50-50. Probably a little bit higher. Because if his intention was to kill you all along, then he doesn't have to stand here wasting time for you to look for your wallet and hand your money over. He should have just shot you, come up behind you, shot you, or hit you over the back of the head with a gun. Don't underestimate a pistol or any kind of a gun as a bludgeon weapon. A gun, yes, it can kill you when they fire it at you, but it can also kill you if the person just takes this gun and smack you over the temple with it or the back of the neck. Okay? So just because the person has a gun doesn't mean that they have to fire it if they wanted to kill you. So let me go back and say, if this person is taking the time to point a gun at you to demand for your money, whatever, at this point in time, he might change his mind later. At this point in time, your chance of survival is at least 50-50, probably more like 70-30. But at this point in time, he is not thinking about killing you. Otherwise, he would have done it already and just take your money after you're dead. Okay? Versus, I point the gun at the person. Let's say I'm a person high on drug, or I'm a very desperate cocaine user. I'm very scared myself. I don't do this I'm not a professional gunman or anything. So I come up and says, "Give me your money, give me your come on," and I'm really scared myself. I don't know what you're going to do, especially if he's a big guy like this, you know. As soon as you try to take my gun, I'm going to fire this. I'm still not thinking about killing you. I'm thinking about survival. I'm thinking about surviving the encounter. So I'm going to pull the trigger, and then you die. So by reaching for this gun, by going into your super badass martial art disarm move or whatever, you just brought your own survival chance down to maybe uh, 80% of a chance you are going to get killed. 80% of the chance. If you are some highly trained special forces or law enforcement or whatever, then I would say you have a maybe 40% of a chance of surviving this, or maybe even 60. But still, let's say you have 60% of chance surviving this. They still have 40% of a chance of killing you. Do you really want to do that? Do you really want to chance on that? Versus if you just hand over your wallet and you have a 70% chance of walking away without getting killed. The math is very straightforward. So please, no matter what you learn, in self-defense, you don't want to, especially when there's a weapon involved, you don't want to start fighting or wrestling for that weapon unless you know you are going to die or your family is going to be hurt, unless it's some kind of situation like that. Otherwise, you'll just be putting your own life at risk, putting people's life at risk for no reason whatsoever. For, well, not no reason, but bad reason. For monetary reason, for financial reason. Because you got to also think about what's going to happen. Let's say you are home with your family members. Let's say you have your kids, your wife, your husband, whatever. The moment this person point the gun at you, okay, right now your survival chance maybe 70%, assuming that you don't recognize the person, assuming the person got a mask on and whatever. Okay? Let's say this at this point, when if you hand over your belongings, you have a 70% of a chance surviving. You and your kids, your husband have 70% of chance surviving. The moment you make a fight of it, the person, boom, kill you, and then he's already killed one. Why would he leave the rest alive? Turn around, boom, 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 kill the rest. By making that one movement, you dropped, you forfeit the life of yourself and everyone around you that might have been spared otherwise. So think about that before you try to be the badass special forces military dude that's going to do the ultra awesome disarm move. Okay? Now with that said, there are a lot of instructors, problematic videos that they show you on YouTube and other social media, Facebook, other social media that teach you horrible, horrible disarming techniques. And I'm going to debunk a few of them today and hopefully give you a better idea of why this is such a bad idea to try to wrestle for that gun and why there are a lot of techniques that are just not going to work. First, foremost, one of the common techniques, and this is even taught in good schools, good Krav Maga program, good Spetsnaz, or a Russian sambo, or any kind of self-defense, military self-defense program. One thing that I'm going to digress for 1 second here. One thing that scares me about programs that mark themselves as military is they give you an illusion of invincibility because you're learning something that's being used by the military. But remember, you are probably not military. You do not live your life like a career soldier. So you don't have the same conditioning, the same strength, the same speed as military. So just because you learn some military self-defense, it doesn't mean that you will be performing like a special forces person, unless you live and train like a special forces person. Okay, back to the gun. One of the techniques I've seen over and over again is no matter how you grab the gun, you put your hand over the back where this hammer part is. So they can maybe fire the gun once, and then as long as you keep your hand there, the hammer can't move, right? Sound logical, sound like a great idea. What a lot of instructors fail to tell you is that you put your hand there and they pull the trigger and the hammer comes down. I have seen this before in real act, like a hammer. You put a pencil there. If you have a real gun at home, feel free to try it out. Make sure there's no bullet in there. When you put a pencil where the hammer is, and then you pull the trigger, it's going to snap that pencil in half. If your pinky finger, if your hand get there, it's going to chew up whatever body part you put in the way of that hammer. So you got to consider that it's not going to be a painless experience. You put your hand there, they pull the trigger, you just got your hand messed up. Okay? I'm going to give you guys a little demonstration with this training gun. This is not even a real gun. It's just a training gun. But it has a working hammer. Okay? I'm going to take this chopstick, this wooden chopstick, and put it in the way of this hammer. And then pull the trigger. I don't know if you guys can see on the camera, but even this little training gun, which is nowhere as powerful as the real thing, left a mark on this wooden chopstick when I put it in the way of the hammer, and when I pull the trigger and the hammer hit it. Okay? Look at that, look at that. You can see the marks on the chopstick right here. Okay? Again, this is not as powerful as a real thing, but even with this, I don't want to put my finger in there. I don't want to put my hand there when this hammer comes forward, okay? Because I know it's going to hurt like crazy. Probably going to make me bleed. So when you deal with a real gun and people say put your hand over the hammer, I'm not saying that it's a bad idea because it definitely works in preventing them not being able to pull the trigger after the first time if you can keep your hand there. But if you get your hand chewed up, if your pinky finger gets snapped off, and you pull your hand back as a natural reflex, you just sacrifice your hand, and they are going to shoot you again. Okay? So keep that in mind. It's not a painless, it's not an easy thing. Be ready to sacrifice your hand or your finger when you do that. In addition to that, there are a lot of pistols nowadays that have internal hammer or hammerless guns. So when you think that you got your hand over the back and now the gun can fire, these guns can still fire just fine. Okay, so that's another thing you want to consider before you think about disarming, especially a pistol, a gun, any kind of gun really. Remember that unless you are a very uh, highly trained gun expert, military personnel, law enforcement personnel, you are at the disadvantage that you don't know what gun is being pointed at you. Is this a Smith & Wesson? Is it a Walther PPK? Is it a Ruger? Is it a Luger? Is it a Colt? Is it a Beretta? What is this? Like tons and tons of different variations out there, and a lot of them are the same, but a lot of them work differently. So the moment you go for that hammer, assuming this gun has a hammer, you might be grabbing something that has an internal hammer, internal slide, or just totally hammerless to begin with on the outside. And that is going to mess up your technique, something awful. When you think this can fire again, and the guy is like bang, 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 right by your face. Even if he doesn't hit you, the sound, the heat coming from the barrel is going to mess you up, something awful, and disorient you. Okay? And that will lead us smoothly into the next thing that a lot of self-defense instructors don't tell you is even when you deflect this barrel away from yourself, it's still right here by your face. The person pulls the trigger, it's going to be a really loud noise, and it's going to be flame coming out of the barrel, this part you're grabbing, you're going to start heating up. You're going to get your skin singed. If you're not careful, your shirt catch on fire, your hair catch on fire. Okay, so even if the bullet doesn't go into you, you are going to be very uncomfortable at this point. So it's not as smooth and clean as when people show it in self-defense classes. A real gun, there's a lot of heat, there's really loud noise, and it's really scary. Number three, another devastatingly dangerous technique I've seen people show is when they do the disarm, they say get your finger behind the trigger so they can't pull the trigger. Okay? This is, again, something that sounds totally logical, but I'm going to tell you don't do that. Okay? Why not? Let's say I stick my finger behind the gun's trigger and the person is pulling the trigger. Okay, he can't really fire the gun, but what's going to happen is if he applied pressure, I am suffering a lot more than he is. And if he twists this around, my finger is trapped. I get my finger broken, and he still has the gun. He break my finger, he pull the gun away, bang, 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 bang. Okay? Not good. Not good. And if you don't believe me, again, if you have a BB gun or real gun at home that has space behind the trigger, stick one finger behind the trigger and pull the trigger with the other hand as hard as you can. And you tell me if that feels good or not. It hurts a lot to have your finger trapped behind that trigger. Okay? Number four, last but not least, this might be number five. I think might be number five. Whatever. Okay. Last point I'm going to make today before bidding you farewell. Um, Another technique that we see in movies, we see on videos, we see in self-defense schools. Something that looks really cool is you grab the gun and then you find the button that releases the magazine. Okay, you grab the gun, you direct it away from you, and you press down on the magazine release, and the whole clip falls out. Now the gun is useless. Right? Looks pretty cool. Again, I want to say that unless you are some kind of gun expert, special forces, military personnel, that unless you recognize the gun on first sight, don't try that. Reason being, yes, a lot of guns have magazine release right by the trigger. Here, that is true. A lot of them do. But if you get held up and the person is using a Walther PPQ or something similar to this kind of handgun, this handgun, the magazine release is not there. The magazine release is actually part of the trigger guard. You pull the trigger guard down right here, and then I don't have a clip in there right now, but that's how it works. Some guns, the mag release might be on the opposite side. Some guns, the mag release is on the higher up on the body of the gun, or built right into the grip of the gun. Again, you don't know what kind of gun this person pointing at you, especially if it's in your back or in your side, like this, right into the rib. You don't have time to register what this is. You don't have time to grab it and fumble for that mag release. And if you find that it's not there, then, what are you going to do? So, in the end, a lot of these techniques look fancy. A lot of these techniques sound logical, but they depend on one factor. That is, you know for sure that this gun has a hammer. Look at this gun. This gun in particular, this Walther PPQ, doesn't have a hammer. Huh? This gun has a mag release on where people expect it to be. Again, totally missing on this model. So, without that kind of foreknowledge, to grab for the gun and try these techniques, it's pretty much amount to suicide. Okay? If you truly have to disarm a gun, if you truly have to try to take the gun away or redirect it, remember these three simple principles. One, as soon as you get hold of the weapon, you want to hit it with enough force. You don't want to grab it. You want to smack it so hard that it turns a little bit away from you. Okay, that's step one. You want to direct force towards the hand, the arm, or the gun, so it goes off course right away. Okay. Number two, you want to step away from the barrel at the same time. Don't just rely on your hand to do the work. Why? If the person points this gun at me and I hit it, it has 6 inches to 8 inches to travel before it clears my body, especially someone who has wide chest, wide shoulders like myself, right? If it's pointed at my head, that's better. Yeah, it's a couple inches left and right, and I'm free. I'm scot-free. But if it's pointing at my chest, I hit it, most likely I just got my shoulders blown off. Yeah? So the moment I hit it, I want to step to the side, give myself a bigger chance to survive this. So that's two. The third point is, once you get a hold of this, you want to enter into their space. Make sure your hold is nice and tight, but you want to crowd the person and attack what I call the central computer. Never mind trying to take the gun from their hand. Never mind trying to find where the mag release is. Never mind the hammer. As soon as you're out of the line of fire, pam, 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 go for the head, go for the throat, go for the groin. Okay? If the person is worried about their own safety, they're less likely to try to think about how to shoot you, how to realign, and how to shoot you. Okay, they might still be pulling the trigger, but as long as it's pointed away from you and you keep messing up their head, you're okay. Okay, so simple 3 things to do: redirect, step offline, and attack the central computer. There's of course a lot more to any kind of weapon-based system, weapon-based situation. But if you keep these 3 things in mind, your chance of survival is a lot higher than trying to mess with cupping the hammer or finding the mag release or sticking your finger behind the trigger guard or holding onto the barrel and pulling this way, pushing that way. Okay? It's already a deadly situation. Don't make it more complicated than it has to be. Thank you for checking out today's Tactical Tuesday. We'll be back again tomorrow for Wisdom Wednesday. For now, stay safe. Have a good night.